Romaan has over a decade of corporate legal experience, partner at the firm, a founder. He built a diverse career spanning law firms, litigation practice, and in-house counsel roles with national and international corporations. He's represented clients in leading arbitration institutions such as LCIA, and he structured and negotiated complex international agreements, including JVs, real estate franchise, hospitality, and commercial contracts. Also covers dispute resolution, managing global litigation and regulatory compliance cross-border. He's particularly strong in real estate, hospitality, e-commerce, and regulatory compliance. Myself, I'm Sarah Malik. I'm the founder of do a lot of kind of international keynote and thought leadership. So the purpose of today's webinar is really to kind of bring together the opportunities that exist both between the UAE and Kashmir on both kind of sides and what's going on in the landscape. So I just give and to explore both the opportunities and also the legal landscape that surrounds that. So we're going to kick off. Firstly, I'm going to invite an overview from yourself, Romaan, I think, to provide a general introduction about what's going on between Kashmir and the UAE, the investment inflows, the opportunities, and the focus sectors. We know, for example, there's a lot of investment that's happening from the UAE into Kashmir at the moment. We also know that there's opportunities for Kashmiris within the UAE. They're already fairly well established in business and otherwise. So the floor is yours, Romaan. Over to you.
First of all, thank you, Sarah, for the lovely introduction. And he's still missing, but I would like to thank him for being a part of this initiative, Mr. Iqbal for joining us today, and all of you for being here today. I'm Romaan Muneeb, a corporate lawyer by profession with over a decade of experience. So I believe the discussion is both timely and very important for the growth of Kashmir's business and for creating and strengthening the commercial ecosystem between the UAE and Kashmir. Now, before diving straight into the main discussion and speaking about the investment opportunities between Kashmir and the UAE, I would like to set the context first. See, the two main contributors to the Kashmir's GDP have traditionally been tourism and agriculture. In fact, they have been the only dominant sectors of the region's economy. However, due to the persistent challenges that this space has faced over the years, such as the harsh weather conditions, limited connectivity, and periods of political instability, even these traditional sectors, despite having vast potential, have remained underdeveloped. As a result, many other local resources and promising sectors of this region, which in some or the other way are connected to these traditional sectors only, have also remained untapped, underutilized, and largely underdeveloped. Now, out of these potential sectors and promising sectors, today I want to highlight and take you through a few of these sectors that with the right focus and right investment can become true game changers. By investing early in these underdeveloped and untapped sectors, investors from the UAE can gain an early mover's advantage and establish a strong business presence in this region. So without further delay, let's start with the first sector, that is the cable car sector. See, Kashmir has over 1,000 lakes and hundreds of stunning and beautiful places, but all of these places are inaccessible currently. If these areas were made accessible, they would attract more visitors from all over the world. And Kashmir is already visited by thousands every year. Kashmir is often compared to Switzerland, which is a developed nation, a global pioneer in cable car infrastructure. Switzerland has over 2,400 cable car installations and around 350 companies operating in this sector, generating more than USD 2.5 billion annually. Now let's come back to Kashmir. In comparison, Kashmir has only a few cable car projects, with just 2 to 3 currently operational. The most notable is the Gulmarg Gondola, one of the Asia's largest cable car systems, which generates around USD 13 million annually. Now imagine if Kashmir had not just 2 to 3, but 20 to 30 such cable car projects in operation, it could transform the region's economy tremendously and established Kashmir as one of the top adventure and tourism destinations in the world. So I see a lot of potential for investment and infrastructure development in this sector. Next in line is the healthcare sector. So I believe the healthcare sector in this region is highly underdeveloped and needs a major upliftment. There is around one doctor for around 2,000 patients in Kashmir, one single hospital bed for around 1,000 patients. Now, this ratio is well below the WHO standards. And this gap suggests that there is an urgent need for investment and development in this sector. Yes, although the government has received a lot of proposals from international players and local players, but despite all of these efforts, the healthcare sector in Kashmir holds immense potential for investment, which could not only bring high returns to the investors, but could also make a real-time impact on the lives of the people. Now this sector is very interesting. I'm going to talk about the aromatic farming sector in Kashmir. The aromatic farming sector. Kashmir's climatic conditions and its rich soil is ideal for growing aromatic plants. Aromatic plants such as lavender, rosemary, geranium, chamomile, mint, marigold, and a lot of other aromatic plants grow naturally in Kashmir and are used to produce essential oils, herbal teas, cosmetics, perfumes, and a lot of wellness products which have demand throughout the world right now. However, what does Kashmir need? What do we lack? Kashmir doesn't have effective export systems to reach international markets. There are no big brands which have international presence. There aromatic plants. So what Kashmir needs is investment in its farming, processing, and supply chain systems from the UAE, probably. And UAE in return would get supply of high quality natural ingredients for its cosmetics, aromatherapy, and health food industries. So next in line is the biotech sector. Now, this is seriously very interesting. And I believe that, this sector holds a gold mine of potential. Kashmir is home to around 3,500 medicinal and therapeutic plants. And this figure is huge as compared to any other place in the world. The region, like I said, is rich in agriculture and generates millions of metric tons of agricultural waste, which includes apple pomace, walnut waste, and silk waste. Now, all of these agricultural waste and byproducts can be transformed into activated carbons, which we all know has a wide range of usage and applications in multiple industries. These agricultural wastes and byproducts can also be used to manufacture nutraceuticals, pharmaceuticals, and also bioplastics, and lots of other value-added products. So a collaboration between Dubai and Kashmir in this sector would give Kashmir access to knowledge, capital, technology, and international markets. At the same time, I believe UAE could use these products in advanced science and healthcare innovation. And all of this aligns with the Dubai's vision for sustainability and economic diversification. Last but not the least, the logistics. So now this sector in Kashmir needs a lot of catching up to do. This sector, I believe, a place cannot progress without a good logistics system. So let me share something interesting with you. In 2024, about 1.3 million metric tons of apples were exported from Kashmir, and which brought over 1.36 billion USD to the value as revenue. And I'm just talking about apples and not about the rest of the agricultural exports, such as saffron or walnuts or other important exports like carpets, shawls, or other items, which are world famous and have huge demand throughout the world. Now, what is the challenge? The challenge is that almost all of these exports travel indirectly through New Delhi before reaching the Gulf markets or other international destinations. This is because Kashmir, now listen to this, Kashmir is connected to the world through a single highway, which is cut through the Himalayas. And this highway is highly vulnerable to weather problems like snow and landslides. And this causes disruptions. And these disruptions cause delays, reduces profits of the businessmen, and negatively affects the local trade for almost half of the year. Now, how do we address these challenges? These challenges can be addressed if Kashmir gets investment in, let's say, modern cold storage facilities, as the roads are often closed due to weather conditions. We require logistics hubs and efficient supply chain systems to ensure exports are not disrupted. Maybe a direct air cargo flight from Srinagar to Sharjah or Dubai. Kerala has done it, and it is pretty successful. This way, we could make shipping faster and less dependent on the road transport. And if these improvements are made and investments are made in this direction, Dubai will get access to high quality, natural, and organic products for its food, retail, and luxury markets. The hospitality sector, for natural reasons we all know, has a huge potential in Kashmir and is growing as well. In the last few years, some of the major international and national chains, hotel chains, have entered into management agreements with the local hotel owners. So, from what I've shared so far, it is pretty clear that Kashmir has humongous opportunities. Some of the world's leading companies have started recognizing Kashmir's potential and are eyeing Kashmir as an untapped market. One of the major developments on a government to government level was the signing of the landmark MOU between the administration of Jammu and Kashmir and the government of United Arab Emirates on October 18, 2021. Now, this MOU created a broader framework for large-scale investments from Dubai-based companies and identified several key sectors for collaboration between UAE and Kashmir. Now, these key sectors include real estate development, industrial parks, IT towers, logistics, healthcare infrastructure, medical colleges, and super specialty hospitals. Now, following the signing of this MOU, a lot of LOUs were signed between the companies from both the regions. And a lot of investment initiatives were launched. Some are already underway and some are in the planning stages. One of the prime examples of progress in this direction was when Emaar laid down the foundation work to develop a shopping mall in Kashmir. Emaar, as we all know, is one of the leading real estate developers, is building a 500 crore, 5 lakh square feet shopping mall in Kashmir. The mall will have over 500 retail outlets, a 6-screen multiplex, a 5-star hotel, and will have both residential and commercial spaces. Next in line was DP World. DP World, as we all know, is a global logistics leader. It has already signed an agreement with the Jammu and Kashmir government to build a logistics park in Kashmir. Al Maya Group has introduced Kashmiri saffron into UAE markets, providing an export channel for local farmers. The famous Lulu Group is investing 200 crores to create a food processing unit, food processing and logistics hub in Srinagar, with another 200 crores planned for future expansion. Mirage Group, it's a Singapore-based group. It is opening an AI-powered beauty and aesthetics academy in Srinagar. So on the domestic front also, some of the leading companies, top companies from India, like JSW Steel, which is India's leading steel producer, is setting up a 150 crore manufacturing facility in JNK. JK Cement, it's a top leading cement brand from India, which has already marked its presence in Kashmir. So if you connect the dots, you'll see one clear picture. Kashmiri markets are evolving, and the building blocks for growth are already in place. What is needed now are global partnerships and forward-looking, brave investors who can see the potential beyond the existing challenges. Yes, challenges do exist, especially in the logistics, compliance, and regulatory navigation. And it is true that foreign investors, especially, have been skeptical and cautious about investing in Kashmir, majorly because of the political instability. But here's the thing. With the current geopolitical scenario, risk isn't unique to Kashmir. Policies are evolving everywhere. Markets face uncertainties everywhere. Governments are changing everywhere. Yet economies don't die. They adapt, they survive, and they thrive in most of the cases. Kashmir has shown resilience over the years, and a region that can earn in billions from exports, even in these difficult times. Imagine what it could achieve when things are truly normal and streamlined. Now, having said all of that, I think things are moving in the right direction in Kashmir, and the business environment in Kashmir has improved greatly, and those improvements are visible. Young people, a lot of people, especially the young people, are exploring areas like AI, technology, fashion, filmmaking, and gaming. And believe me, these young people are mostly from the rural areas. Can you believe it? Established business houses are moving from age-old business practices to modern methods and are beginning to follow proper compliance and regulatory practices to grow more effectively. There's a strong push from the government, both at the central and the state level, in the shape of supportive legal and policy measures, about which Mr. Iqbal Butt will speak in more detail in a short while. So to conclude, lastly, I would like to say that Kashmir is ready to move from stories of beauty to stories of business, to the stories of success. Kashmir is not just a place of beauty. It is a place of opportunities, waiting for those bold enough investors to see them and take actions and turn challenges into opportunities. Thank you for listening and for your patience.
Thanks so much, Romaan. I've certainly learned a lot from that in terms of what the available opportunities are. I mean, I know from the overview, the general kind of cooperation between the two countries and what's been promised and the investments that are likely to take place. I'm happy that Dr. Mahmood Hussain has also managed to join us. I do know he's in Egypt and he had a lot of technical issues, and I completely concur with that, having been in Egypt last week. And I'd just like to give you an overview before I do start with you, Mr. Iqbal, of who Dr. Mahmood Hussain is for our audience. So Dr. Mahmood Hussain is a founding partner of M&Co Legal here in the UAE, one of our leading regional and, I dare say, international firms. Sets the standards for boutique practice. He's got over 20 years of experience in both the public and private sectors. He's a litigator at the Dubai courts. He's also achieved very many favourable judgments in several high-profile cases. He's a real advocate for the UAE. He sits for the as the chair of the commission for the ICC in ADR. And he's known within our region, certainly for setting some of the benchmark decisions. He's settled or fought very many high-profile shareholder disputes and various other commercial disputes, and acted in numerous international arbitration proceedings, both as counsel as he sits an arbitrator. In fact, he played a key role in establishing the Dubai International Financial Centre courts. He was a member of the original committee that established the courts at a very young age, he was. And he's still young now, Dr. Mahmood. To me, you're still young. And he was the first deputy registrar of the DIFC courts. And he's been involved in a lot of the legislation that takes place in the DIFC. And he also fights his cases within the DFC, which is not very normal. We don't have a lot of the local practitioners who actually fight within the DFC courts and have rights of audience. Also, I know he's successfully appeared in the ADGM. He's been recognised throughout our region and internationally. He's had the most rising arbitrator in the region. His firm has won numerous accolades, even recently in Egypt from the law. And he's in all the legal directories. So thank you, Dr. Mahmood, for joining us. I'm going to hand over to Mr. Mohammed Iqbal to begin with, and then over to Dr. Mahmood to give the UAE perspective on the outlook, investment, and Kashmiri businesses in the UAE. So over to our next speaker, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Sarah, for the introduction earlier. And I think what Romaan has done in this, a short period of time, given all the various opportunities available to investors in Jammu and Kashmir. I think there are definitely, he referred to challenges, but since we have been advising one of the major investors, like we mentioned about MR, we are advising the joint venture of MR in Kashmir in that establishment of the mall. Now I will just after looking at whatever opportunities Romaan spoke about, how to what should be the next step. I think how to enter the market and what kind of business structure one should have, which are easy to establish. There is nothing different as far as the regulations are concerned from J&K, from the rest of India, when it comes to establishing or incorporating a structure for carrying out business in J&K. Now, depending upon ease of doing business and tax efficiency, and businesses generally choose between an equity and a non-equity presence. It also depends whether you want to test the market first and then decide what kind of structure you want as regards control over the business. If you want to test the market first, then a foreign entity can open either a liaison office or a branch office. Now, setting up of a liaison office involves a simple application to the Reserve Bank of India through the authorized bank, which is going to be your bank. You have to just go to the bank and apply, and then this when you establish a liaison office, it can undertake uh, you know it cannot undertake any commercial trading or industrial activity. Now, it only acts as a communication channel and is generally, since it cannot earn any income, so there is nothing, to be taxed. Although I'm not a tax advisor, but this is not allowed. A liaison office is not allowed to earn any income in India. It's only used for communication purposes and maybe sometimes research and development and creating some reports and all that stuff. Now, this liaison office should also be maintained through funds from the parent company, which comes from outside, and it can be used for market research, promoting products, and establishing contacts. Now, on the similar lines, you can open also a branch office in India, in Kashmir. The same process is involved there. It can carry out specific business activities like exporting, importing of goods, rendering professional services, etc. But the tax rate in this case is a little higher than the normal entities, which are considered to be resident entities. So it will be more than almost 40%, more than 40%. Now, another simple structure which is used for businesses for carrying out their business in India, or especially in JNK, you can enter into UNK, you can establish a project office. Now, what is a project office? It's again, when a foreign entity gets a contract with the government or any private entity, then it can open a project office. Now, the project office are commonly used in infrastructure and construction projects. And in this case, one can bring an amount equal to the contract value to India and implement the contract. Then now these structures, three structures which I just mentioned, you can have complete control over the operations. But there are certain eligibility criteria mentioned in the regulations, which are in the process of being, I think, changed, because there is a recent regulation has been, draft regulations have been circulated for public comments, where all these, criteria for eligibility is going to be taken out. So I think then it will be more easier again to establish any of these structures in India. Now, suppose an entity has already tested the market now and has decided to establish a structure to carry out business on a full-fledged basis, then the most easiest and often most popular route is setting up of an Indian subsidiary, or which is basically in the form of either a private limited company or a public limited company with maximum control it will have. Now, incorporation is generally quick and straightforward. You just have to, make common application to the registrar of companies, and investment is allowed under FDI policy of 100% in most of the sectors. I don't think now you need any government approval for majority of the operations or businesses which you want to carry in India. Now, this private limited company, if you incorporate, it will be considered as an Indian domestic company, and which is subject to the lower corporate tax rate, which is around 25%. And, if you compare it with the branch office, which is 40%, so it is definitely a more efficient from the tax point of view, as far as the tax advantage for operating profits is concerned. Now, in this case, you own the entity 100% and total control, and it can carry out full-fledged business, including manufacturing, trading, and services. Now, this is specifically for a private limited company where you want to own and control the whole thing yourself. Now, in case you want to take the benefit of a local partner, which I guess in J&K is advisable because you will get the benefit of his experience, his knowledge, his distribution network, if any. Then you can go for a joint venture. Now, joint venture will also depend upon what kind of a percentage or what kind of a risk you want to take. Now, if you want to have only a financial investment in a company, which you feel that there is a potential of good return on your investment, you could choose up to investing, up to less than 10%. But if you want to have some control on major decisions to be made by the joint venture, then definitely decisions on mergers, amendments to memorandum and articles, and changes in the company's capital structure. In that case, you should always own minimum 26% in the joint venture company. But if you want to have a substantial control over the running of the joint venture company, then it is recommended that you have 51%, which is enough to control the operations and everything, the board and everything. But if you want to have an absolute control where you feel that nobody should interfere in your you are given total control of the joint venture, then you should go for 76%. Now, control over certain decisions and specific rights and obligations of shareholders of a joint venture company can also be established through a shareholder joint venture agreement. It is irrespective of what percentage you're going to have in the joint venture. But if you have a contract where you no, for joint venture company, incorporation is also on the similar lines as a wholly owned subsidiary, and but because it requires little more time on looking for the local partner. You have to carry a due diligence on that, and then entering into a joint venture and shareholder agreement. So it will also have the same tax liability as a private limited company. Now, no, so for a full-fledged business operations with the best long-term combination of operational freedom, control, and tax efficiency, establishing a wholly owned subsidiary is generally recommended. But looking at J&K, it is also advisable if you look for a local partner for experience and knowledge of the market for easier setup of business in J&K through joint ventures. Now, you can also operate through franchisee structure. Now, you can give a franchise to an Indian resident individual or a company in J&K who will pay the foreign franchisor a franchise fee. And such an arrangement is purely contractual. You have to enter into a franchisee agreement, which will clearly set out the terms and conditions of the franchise, and then you can, go ahead. It does not trigger any FDI policy, and the money which goes out from the franchisee to the franchisor is seen as a current account transaction, and you can just use your authorized bank dealer to remit that franchisee fee abroad. Okay. Now, you would also now have questions before starting any of the structure, that how much it's going to cost you to establish such presence in J&K. Now, depending upon the structure you choose, I guess the minimum expense on establishing a structure would be anywhere between rupees 25,000 to a maximum of maybe 2 lakh rupees. Now, and if a joint venture is involved, that could involve due diligence on the target or the partner, and then drafting of joint venture shareholders agreement, which may be a little more. It will cost you a little more in the professional fees. If you look at these difficulties which Mr. Romaan referred to, I guess looking at India, Kashmir market, I think you get a first more advantage also here. Although there are certain political issues and security issues and all, but if you look at the overall picture, and if you want to take the first more advantage, it is definitely waiting for investments. Now, before I close, and I hope, I would like to add a disclaimer here because we are lawyers and not investment advisors. I think you should always consult your investment financial advisors for making any investment decisions. I hope I have been able to give you some basic idea about what structure will suit your endeavor. I would be happy to try and answer if you have any specific questions. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And that was really interesting to actually know the practicalities of what people need to do and how businesses need to operate to ensure that we don't fall foul. I'm going to hand over shortly to Dr. Mahmood Hussain to give the overview from the UAE side as well. And before I do, I'll set the scene also very briefly in terms of the UAE. So from the UAE side, we have an economic outlook for 2025 and beyond. We have UAE Vision. You'll see a lot of the Arab countries have this kind of Vision 2030, 2031. And that's part of a broader economic diversification strategy where there's a deliberate move in our regions away from an oil dependency towards more of an innovation-driven sector or sectors. And that includes tourism, renewable energy, logistics, infrastructure, and finance. So the point of the UAE kind of outlook, economic outlook or vision is so the UAE's placed as a global investment and arbitration hub, and we're strengthening bilateral and regional investment channels, both within India and the wider South Asia region. And this outlook was launched in November 2022 by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. And we've certainly in the region seen a whole flux of legislation to implement that, to ensure that the UAE social, economic, and governmental priorities for the next decade are set out there and kind of keeps global competitiveness. From a legal standpoint, what does that mean? That diversification has been supported by continuous reform we see in our region, which Mahmood will talk more about. We see progressive foreign investment regimes, and we have internationally aligned dispute resolution systems, both through our common law systems here, where we choose seats of DIFC or ADGM, and also onshore. And UAE is positioning itself as a global hub for capital deployment, both inbound and outbound, with a stable kind of regulatory environment and a network of bilateral investment treaties. Just touching briefly, Romaan, on the October 2021 treaty between the UAE and Kashmir. From our side, the Dubai investor side, it signals for us a prioritized region of India, certainly Kashmir, because of the sectors, because of tourism. You've already talked about how Emaar and Lulu and Noon are all investing or given intent to invest and build within the infrastructure. And from the Indian or the Jammu and Kashmir side, it's part of a broader push for industrialization and investment into an economy and a country that's now increasingly, hopefully, seeing more kind of stability. Obviously, there remains from the legal side various considerations. There's risk and compliance. There's still sensitivities in terms of governance, in terms of legal clarities, but it offers an opportunity for lawyers to get involved when these investments are taking place or where there's more that's happening. So there's multiple sectors that are covered under this MOU, industry, IT, logistics, tourism, health, and those are all part of the wider kind of UAE outward investment and partnerships that they also have with India, something that was signed in 2022. Again, from a legal perspective, we look at risk assessment, we look at due diligence, we look at contract structuring, governance frameworks, and dispute resolution. So there's a whole kind of mix of what comes to the table once the countries start to kind of work together in investment. That's enough from me. I'm going to hand over to the real expert, Dr. Mahmood Hussain, who will give some more information. Thanks, Mahmood.
Thank you very much, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be with you today. And I'm so sorry for being a little bit late to the session because due to the issues in Egypt because of a technical issue on the internet.
No problem at all.
Okay, so first to start, let's see how much UAE actually received direct foreign investment and why. For example, in 2019, UAE received $15 billion. In 2020, increased to $19 billion. 2021 reached $20 billion. In 2022, it reached $22 billion. In 2023, $30 billion. And preliminary report for 2024 is at $45 billion or $46 billion. Those are number didn't come random. It comes because there were a plan and policy from the government to increase this the foreign direct investment. How was the plan from the government? I remember when I was working for the executive office of Exynis 20 years ago, and was part of the strategy. The strategy was to receive more foreign direct investment. So therefore, what UAE has done, you have done certain issues. For example, the UAE government started with establishing free zones to give the foreign 100% foreign ownership. So basically, today we have 40 free zones. 40 free zones offer 100% foreign ownership in key sector and maintain one of the most competitive tax and regulatory framework across the globe. So basically, we have 40, and this is one initiative. This is the starting point. The next point was to convince, because this has started the initiative of free zones in Dubai. Then Dubai tried to influence the federal government. The federal government amended foreign direct investment laws, different laws, company laws. So basically, to allow ownership not only in the free zone, even in the mainland. This actually is a UAE stories. Now, going to India, India UAE model economic partnership. This is, I think, is the treaty between India and UAE as the people from foreign Ministry of Foreign Affairs and UAE government official. It was the fastest for UAE and India. In 85 days, they finished this partnership or economic of comprehensive economic partnership. So 85 days, due to deep trust, shared prosperity, and historical friendship. So those friendship help us in 85 days to finish this economic partnership or SIBA. Now, today, because of this economic partnership or SIBA, the UAE is one of the top 5 Indian largest trade partner. India is a top trading partner for UAE. They are second partner. Bilateral trade has exceeded 85 billion and projected to reach 100 billion by 2030. Why then SIPA is important for UAE and India? And why it lay grounds for us for all activities? First of all, it accelerated the growth, eliminated tariff, increased market accessibility, and as well created new pathway for investment in energy, transportation, finance, service, and technology. Now in UAE, what we are seeing, we're seeing a new wave of cooperation. We're seeing a lot of Indian company setting up in UAE in the IFC or mainland a headquarter where they can invest and expand to India because of logistic, because of accessibility, because of easy going and coming from UAE for their African partner and for UAE partner. We have seen a sovereign funds of UAE are investing in infrastructure, port, clean energy, and logistics. We have seen a lot of joint venture, for example, with Indian companies, which are building infrastructure. We say Hill and Ford, for example, one of the leading Indian company in infrastructure. They're building the infrastructure in UAE. But what happening recently, we have seen a lot of flow of manufacturing and Indian business to Dubai to eliminate the tariff with the US because the US and the geopolitics and geoeconomic move actually led a lot of those companies utilize SIFA and had a headquarter or the export start from UAE. So that's now what is the future of development? I think future would be, I think the sector that will be impacted is technology, AI, and advanced infrastructure. India becoming a powerhouse of young, talented, innovative younger who are working in technology. So I think the collaboration will increase and we'll see more flow of business from UAE to India and from India to UAE as well. So that's generally my overview about this relationship. Thank you, Sarah.
You're very welcome, and thank you for that. Subject to what anyone thinks now, we might take a couple of questions from the audience. And if you do want to ask, we already have a hand up from Anzar, maybe, or that's a clap, I don't know. But if we do want, somebody does want to ask a question, please put it in the chat and, we can unmute you. Please just be precise with the question. We don't want kind of commentary because we want to use the time effectively, and just tell us what question you may have and for which speaker. So over to the audience, please. Has anybody got a question? You can either, I don't know if you can unmute yourselves or you can put it on the chat function, if that assists. And Pavi, I don't know if you can see on the chat function. We don't have anything on the chat function yet. Okay, maybe I'll kickstart and ask a question. And Romaan, I have a question for you. You've talked about and we need to unmute you. Do you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
You gave a great overview of what's actually happening, or the intent behind the MOUs of what will happen in between Kashmir and the UAE. Where do you think that will kind of open up opportunities for lawyers, or what do lawyers need to be aware of when getting involved in such kind of international structures, collaborations? What's your view?
See, I believe first of all, we need to understand the opportunities that exist. And once we identify those opportunities, obviously the lawyer's role will come into play. So I believe, like I said, there are several untapped, underutilized, and underdeveloped sectors in Kashmir. And I mentioned all of them in our discussion today. Definitely, when there will be an exchange between the two nations and two economies, definitely there will be a lot of scope for the lawyers as well. When there will be agreements, there will be cross-border exchange of trade, or let's say commodities. Definitely, the work and the role of the lawyers will increase. And with the introduction of the MOUs, and with a lot of policies, and with a lot of legal measures that have been taken in the recent times, I believe the role of the lawyers will definitely increase. And the international arbitrations, for example, we can have neutral arbitration centers. We can have those clauses in the agreements, and definitely, I believe the role of the lawyers will increase. So, lastly, I just want to tell you that think about Dubai 50 to 70 years ago. It was mostly sand, and full of a land full of potential, until a few visionaries decided to believe. So both of these nations can create a true win-win partnership, a two-way exchange of innovation and resources. And when that is done, obviously, imagine Dubai 50 years ago. The first people that went to that place, were the lawyers, I believe. And today the world admires what they created.
Whoever came here 50 years ago has done very, very well.
Exactly.
When they saw the vision, they saw the future, of course, yeah.
So lawyers are always the first people who visit you, who go to a place who is about to get developed. And Kashmir stands at a similar turning point, full of opportunities, waiting for brave investors to take the first step, gain the first movers advantage, and turn challenges into opportunities. Because I believe with every challenge comes opportunity.
Fantastic. Thank you. Dr. Mahmood, if I could have you back on as well, please, for a second. We know and we see and follow what you do internationally, and you've been doing a lot in India recently. I know you have great relationships both within your firm and externally, and you've been involved in part of the arbitration weeks, you've been speaking. And I know from our own personal discussions, you're concentrating on India as a place of interest for work, for investment, for everything that's going on, and it's the future. What's your view of what we'll see in terms of infrastructure, in terms of changes in the next, let's say, 5 years between the two continents?
Sarah, thank you very much for that. We do a lot of work in India because we have a lot of clients who invest in India. So what we do, because your question for Romaan more specifically, how the lawyer will be impacted with this MOU and partnership. I think one of the area we work quite frequently with the Indian lawyer in terms of due diligence on the status of the projects. This is one of the area we have seen, selecting project, reviewing the project, doing the proper due diligence, seeing the challenge and all of that. Because as an investor need a good lawyers both way. Need the Marathi lawyers who help him, who has been working, for example, for years. On the other hand, he needs a good Indian lawyers, like our learned colleague, that they would do the due diligence on a project status and give accurate information. And then another role lawyer will play, Indian lawyer in Kashmir particularly. They will identify investment window or JD model as well. So basically, investment windows where it's available, for example, and as well the structure they put, JD model or different models. So that's why, because as a lawyer, it's not our role to only review the contract. Sometimes we identify investment opportunity and we bring people together. And that's what I did for years. I'm putting lawyers who help me for opportunities. We're putting investors together, and that's I think one of the area. Then will come infrastructure. What is the model? Appropriate model? Is it JV model? It's a different structure. For example, certain client would come to me, they're doing business investment in UAE. We put trust, sometimes infrastructure structure, sometimes we put JV, sometimes holding, sometimes we put a foundation model for them. Sometimes we do different model because you need to make lean and flexible the structure. Then I think one of the important issues, which is I think challenging for UAE investor, who coming from UAE, because we don't have this very developed regulatory and land framework clarity. If you want to check an ownership of legal framework, because if you go to check the land, for example, what is the land, who owns it, it's easy for Dubai. But in India, it gets more complicated. And as well, so the legal framework and as well the tax regime and stability of the region. That's another question that we have seen a lot of our clients would ask us about regulatory, because what actually hindered them, a lot of investors to come to India, for example, place like Kashmir, is regulatory framework. Regulatory, whether it was regulatory for ownership of lands, because or that. Or sometimes as well, it's delayed legal, because we have one case for one of our clients. It's a farming land and the dispute has been there for 14 years, which is for us, it's not easy to digest. So basically it could be different mechanism to resolve this. And I think another thing is for them, when it comes to Kashmir, they would ask us always about risk. Risk, what is the risk in political risk, security risk, and how to mitigate this risk, logistic and approval risk and all of that. So you always need a lawyer on the other side who understands the risk, who know as well local specificity, is a specification to certain things, how to deal with them. And as well, clients would know, investor would know there is everywhere there is a risk. But they think they would be concerned to find a lawyer who can actually help them with mitigating this risk.
Thank you. That's very useful. We've had a couple of questions from the audience, and I'll try and maybe for you, Mr. Iqbal, and I'm mindful of time as well. I will say that we do plan, Dr. Mahmood and I've talked about this, of hopefully at some stage, maybe next year, doing an in-person seminar. I know he's very keen to visit the valley, right, Dr. Mahmood? You do want to visit Kashmir. I've already been a couple of times, but I know he's keen.
I've never been there, but I'm so excited to be there actually. And particularly, we have a couple of colleagues. They were from Kashmir, worked with me, and invited me. So basically, I'm looking forward to visiting Kashmir.
Inshallah, next year.
Inshallah.
A couple of questions. Let me try and put these together. So one is about what challenges can be turned into opportunities for lawyers in this kind of landscape. And another question is, how do we ensure environmental stability is in a sound state when we're looking at infrastructural developments through investment, because there's undesirable climatic changes that we've witnessed in Kashmir over the past few years. So maybe, Mr. Iqbal, if you could just give us a few minutes on that.
Yeah. See, first, I think the first question is what opportunities can be,
Well, how can we change challenges into opportunities, basically?
See, if you, I can give you my personal example in our law firm. The land records, as Dr. Mahmood was saying, to understand them, and for any big industry, for any big investment, first thing what you need is land. The land due diligence is a big issue as far as J&K is concerned. Whenever an investor comes, they have been finding it so difficult to get the clarity on the title. But in the past few years, the government has digitized all the revenue records. Now, I think currently those websites are under some upgrading, but all the documentation was available. So we could, for our clients who needed big chunks of land, do proper due diligence. And when we were able to do a proper due diligence and handhold them, you have to facilitate. A lawyer can be a facilitator for the investment there. If you don't give the confidence to the investor, he will not come down there. So what the opportunity is that if you are good at doing a due diligence, that is an opportunity where you can, anybody who's interested in investing, if he gets this confidence through a very efficient professional lawyer by carrying out a due diligence, proper due diligence, these are the opportunities where investors can.
And then finding the solutions to the problems. I mean, that's what we do as lawyers. And if we kind of focus on what those issues would be and then think about how we can remedy that, those are the opportunities.
And we were able to do that for many clients, like MR is there. There are others who have been. Now coming to the second question, on the environmental. So definitely, we as lawyers are lawyers, but at the same time, we have to be, concerned about the general environmental impact any industry will have. But currently, if you look at J&K policies and the plans, the government has, I think the idea is to have a sustainable development. I don't think there is anything on paper or policy today which I can say sometimes the policies are more aggressive towards environmental protection, which is otherwise hindering development. So if we look at sustainable development, like you have ecotourism is there, because tourism is one of the biggest that eye-catching investment sector in J&K. But at the same time, you see that if you look at the master plan and other things of various cities, they are keeping in mind the sustainable development of tourism.
But even I think the question is also about the climate, the natural climatic changes in Kashmir. So putting the kind of sustainable development aside, how are we affected by the climate we have in Kashmir?
No, you are saying that the climate, how is climate impacting the business?
Yeah, as in there's undesirable climatic changes in the past few years, and then how's that going to affect infrastructure, building, etc.? The natural kind of climate, if you like.
No, if we go by the world climate change which is happening around, then we have to be careful. Wherever I believe myself that if we have to be careful and apply and go by complying the government policies and the rules which have been established, keeping in mind the sustainable development model. Yeah. I think if we sustain, because what these climatic effects or climatic change effects can only, I think, damage the business climate if somebody goes beyond what has been prescribed by the government to do, because all those policies are made keeping in mind
taking on board what the climate is, so the modus operandi fits with this.
If I don't go by the policy, if I don't go by what the master plan says, where to build what to do what, then definitely I'm exposing myself to effects of the climate change.
I absolutely, totally understand, because with every protocol, whether it's in building, whether it's in health or otherwise, there's a protocol that's regional and takes on account of what's going on in the region, whether it be climate or otherwise. Before we wrap up, I'm mindful of time. I don't know if Dr. Mahmood or Romaan, you want to add anything further?
I think I want to add something. I think most of the companies which come from UAE, Sarah, they are used by principle of protecting the environment that's embedded in their work. For example, one of the UAE policy for 2050 is net zero and low carbon alignment. So basically, each company has to work on that. Then another issue is sustainable and investor accountability, for example, sustainable finance. For example, we see UAE started to embed on the company to report their ESG actually. So, and as well, another policy is a green economy, sustainable transport and water. So basically, all of those policies are on the ground. And I have seen when I was working with a lot of company that the pre-project assessment was required by Dubai municipalities and to assess the impact on the environment. And then and design and investment structuring, so how to structure the design of the buildings that does not impact the environment. And this is I have seen it as well. Construction of
I
we have
think we've
seen it
just
a lot,
lost.
and the development was I think we saw all of that when Palm Jumeirah has been done. All of those study has been in a place, and all of that because I was working closely with my friends who was deputy CEO, and he told me all those policy has been implemented. So I think what happens, UAE companies which coming to invest in Kashmir, they will be well aware about the best practice and best standard to implement to protect the environment in Kashmir.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Romaan, finally, over to you. Is there anything you wanted to add? I did see you on screen. I don't know if you've disappeared. And he will join again. Now, we'd like to thank our audience as well. Thank you for attending. We hope it's been useful. As I say, we hope to be with you in person at some point next year. This was the first inaugural seminar of more to come, and we just wanted to give a general overview. So thank you very much for joining, and yeah, hopefully we'll all meet in person soon. I'd like to thank our speakers for taking their time out, for educating and giving their insights and overviews, which has been really quite useful. And thank you for feedback. People are saying it was insightful, and thank you. So until
Thank
we
you,
meet
Tom.
again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Romaan,
you,
you
Mr.
wanted to add anything?
Probably.
We
The
will.
stage is set, so you're most welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very
Thanks.
much. See you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.